Tabor Pepper to Wisnowski, 41 yards away. Snap, hold, Jake has it away. He has the distance, and it is no good. Jake Moody missed the kick, and the 49ers lose.
Just pushed it out to the right the whole way. Wow.
Thanks for joining us. 49ers lose a heartbreaker 19-17. Thanks for joining us. John Lund, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, and Adam Copeland. And a lot of blame to go around. I know a lot of people will blame the kicker. I know a lot of people will think that I'm going to blame the kicker. But I'm going to defer to you on this one, Dennis. When Demo Lenore gets that interception, they score the touchdown on the next play. It's 17-13. I didn't think the 49ers would give up 2 scoring drives, but they gave up 2 field goal scoring drives. That was enough. That's 6 points, and they lose it 19-17. So a lot to go over: sloppiness, injuries, all these different things. But let me throw it to you first. What were your impressions?
There was a lot of mistakes in this football game. It was sloppy. I know the weather, the elements, and we didn't talk about the rain was going to come. It was going to be windy, but it was rainy. It was just sloppy, and I think Cleveland delivered. We talked about what a good defense they had. They delivered today. They got after the 49ers at the line of scrimmage. I think they won on both sides of the ball: offensive line of scrimmage, defensive line of scrimmage. They got after it, and they were on Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was they've said this is the worst game he's played, but he looked like he was rattled a little bit in the pocket. So, Cleveland came. The 49ers missed a lot of opportunities. It was just a sloppy game all around. And to come down to a kicker, it should never come down to your kicker winning a football game, but sometimes it happens in football. And then you shank it like that. So, it was a tough game to watch. And we talked about what could happen if injuries kind of came on this team. And we saw it today. Trent Williams goes down, McCaffrey goes down, Debo goes down. And then,
Dre Greenlaw to start.
Dre Greenlaw, yeah. So it was tough to watch. And, it was a close game. The defense made some plays. But the offense, 3 and outs, you just can't. 3 and outs, in third quarter. I think the third quarter, was there a first down in the third quarter?
The third quarter, I got it for you here. They had 3 drives. They were all 3 and outs. And one of them wasn't a 3 and out. It was the Purdy interception. And we'll talk about that later because, John, I know you and I have gone at length together and saying not all, there should be, for all the analytics we have, there should be more context in interceptions in the stat sheet because they're not all created equal. Sometimes it's off a guy's hands. Sometimes a guy's thrown to a ball gets batted up in the air and it's picked off. Sometimes it is a quarterback's fault. I thought with Brock on that pick, it was pretty clear for a while there. Once it started raining, he did not have a grip on the ball. Yeah. Like when it was raining at first and you could see the beads on his helmet, he did not. Like you could see when they zoomed in, they had a couple of really good shots. The one where they called it an incomplete and he fumbled pretty clearly when he threw it behind his head or whatever. Same sort of thing with the P.J. Walker play, and we'll talk about that. But it was pretty clear he didn't have a good grip on the ball before they went to half. And they come back out of half, and those are your drives, Dennis. They go they go 3 plays, no yards, interception. 3 plays, negative 12 yards punt. 3 plays, 0 yards punt. And then the only reason they score and they have any positive gain is the interception by Demo Lenore that takes it back the other way, and they get a 1-play, 8-yard touchdown run from J.P. Mason.
Yeah, and they were behind the chains the entire third quarter, the entire football game. First downs was either, a penalty or it was, something else that they were just falling, or a negative play that they were just, it was 2nd and 20 sometimes. So it's tough to make play calls, when you're that far behind the chains. And that was I think that was the entire third quarter for sure, but it was pretty much the entire football game.
Yeah, penalties, sacks, getting stuffed on the run, those kind of things. And the 49ers lose it 19-17. By the way, if you want to jump in, text line is wide open. You can start the conversation on YouTube and Twitch as well. The 49ers, their first loss. In fact,
we're taking your calls too, by the way, John.
Oh, right on.
808 KNBR. We're taking your calls. We're full staffed on a Niner loss Sunday here to the Cleveland Browns.
And again, look, 17-1 in their last 18. We acknowledge those kind of things. Let's give you the stat of the game because this is a big one. Sponsored by Stevens Creek Toyota. Shop a huge selection of over 500 vehicles. Stevens Creek Toyota, the obvious choice.
Gee, what a pro.
34 for 160. That's 4.7 a pop, including the Jerome Ford 22-yarder that got them in basically field goal range to not miss the field goal. But I would have thought, and they controlled the ball 34 for 160. P.J. Walker threw a couple of bad interceptions, probably could have thrown more. We'll talk about the missed opportunities. Fred Warner had the one that got down to the 26-yard line on their first possession. They get nothing out of it because they get some penalties on that one. Gets them out of easy field goal range. And then Moody missed the 54-yarder left. He would miss the game winner to the right, the 41-yarder. But Walker wasn't all that great. He was good enough, but they were able to run the football. Ford, 17 for 84. Kareem Hunt was fairly effective. The former 49er.
40 yards a carry almost, yeah.
Yeah, Marquise Goodwin had an end around for 20 yards. Add that all up. You don't see a $160 against the 49ers run defense very often.
Well, and you don't see teams do statistically what they did to the 49ers, which is before the game, I think I said to you guys, and we talked about it this week, I think on a lot of the KNBR shows, that probably ideal, it's what you do when you have a high-octane basketball team, right? You want to make sure that they're limiting the number of opportunities that they get. You try to slow it down a little bit, or you make it really hard on the opportunities that the superstars get. For the Niners, what you want to do is slow the game down in the sense that you deflate it and they don't get a bunch of opportunities to drive the football. Now, the scripted opening drive, yet again, they keep that streak alive, right? Another drive that they opened with a touchdown. They look sharp there. McCaffrey looked good there. And we'll talk about him because he takes a lot of hits, man. That was a lot today. It seemed like he was it looked like he was bleeding up his leg and stuff too. Like that was I don't know what that was. Maybe it was just paint, but he looked like he was taking a beating, and he ended up leaving and not returning. But what was weird was they held the Niners. I think it was only 4 drives for them in the first half before they go to halftime. Second half, it was back and forth a bunch because it was a lot of defensive stops for Cleveland, and the same goes for the Niners. But nobody was moving the ball. Game took a long time. Seemed like it was a lot of stop and goes, a lot of incomplete passes. Niners couldn't get anything moving. I mean, there was a stretch of time where Brock, that's the most under duress I think we've ever seen Brock. And they still had a shot. If there's any silver lining, it's that when he did put it together, it was on that final drive.
Yeah, that final drive was important, but I was super surprised at the Cleveland offense. It felt like they were running the ball on the perimeter really well. I mean, there was a lot of plays
like counters
outside.
Almost?
Yeah, it was a lot of counters. It was a lot of, as Tim calls them, these plug and pull-in plugs. We just call them counter plays. And then, you pull two guys on one side.
That's all I know, yeah. That's how I know. If you know how many guys my age know football because of Madden, know like any bit of it, or
funny.
think they know any bit of it.
Right. But it was working. I mean, it was a good game plan against this 49ers defense, at least their front four. I mean, a lot of pulling,
give them credit,
a lot of trapping. I mean, they were getting to the outside. They were getting big yards to the outside, and they were getting ahead of the chains, which the 49ers could not do.
I can ask you guys this real quick, just like from a just watching, try to go neutral perspective. I'm watching the game, and they line up for the field goal. And it was funny how quick the moods change, right? Like when
the last field goal?
The last field goal there, when they start driving the field, because they just kept getting, it was 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And then they get a penalty there that puts them in range. Then 3rd and Juwan catches the pass on 3rd and 2. And I said to Tim, actually, I said, he guaranteed. I haven't heard the call yet, but I guaranteed Papa said that on that first down pickup on the final drive. They get into range, and I kind of thought for a minute, oh, my God, I thought for sure they were going to lose after they kicked that field goal. I didn't know, we hadn't seen Brock try to drive the field like that after having a terrible game. It was an opportunity to see something. And then they line up for the kick, and I'm thinking, it didn't feel like he was going to miss it, but I certainly didn't feel like if the Niners won this game that they were deserving of winning this game. Like, and if you win, you deserve to win, no question. But they were outplayed for the entirety of this game, I thought, by a team that didn't have a starting running back, a starting quarterback. They had a defensive coach. Basically, every variable we talked about being a factor that before the game, was like, that's not all going to happen. And even if it does, what are they going to stop the Niners? They lose 2 of their best players. And John, you said we can point the finger of blame at a lot of people. I texted you when Trent Williams left the game. I think I said, this is your fault, dude. I was like, oh, man, you were talking injuries before. It's a concern when all this happens now because you've got a good defensive line. For the first time we've seen Brock under duress, and that was I don't know what was unique about this time. Dennis will have to tell us that. But.
Well, we talked about it before the game. I mean, the 49ers come and they, 85 yards down. They score a touchdown. You set the momentum. And then defense comes out and you don't go 3 and out. I mean, you give up a long drive. And then you got hope. Then you can believe in yourself. And I think that's what Cleveland was doing. I mean, they believe they can win that football game. And the quarterback, he made some bad decisions, but still, he made the right decisions at the right time. And then, the game plan, being able to run the ball, being able to complete some passes. Amari Cooper, it was just things. Well. Yeah, it was just things like that. And then you believe that you can win the dang football game, and then it comes down to a field goal. Even that last drive, I mean, you watch them just go, do nothing for the third quarter, struggle in the fourth quarter, and then that last drive, you get yourself set up to win the football game, and then you miss the field goal. So, I think the confidence level is what was different in this game. And, you got a good defense, and to complement your offense, and your offense starts believing a little bit, and you run down the football field.
I think there was just so many missed opportunities. And, again, I know that people, because it's just so easy to look at the rookie kicker and say, well, he missed, we lost. Or look at the Gibson play where that was shoulder to shoulder. Okay, the referees lost us the game. But if you look at
the
this
Mooney Ward play, next play.
Exactly.
That was the most ticky-tack play of the game.
Yeah, I thought that was too. So, look, they can say that, but then as you pointed out, Dennis, you talked about this before the game. So you're up 7-0, you just drive the field on these guys. They're kind of teetering, right? Fred Warner picks that ball off, steps in front of the receiver, gets it down to the 26-yard line, and offensively you're so inept that you push the ball all the way back to where Jake Moody has to make a 54-yard field goal. He misses it left. So now, instead of being up 10-0, 14-0, you're at the Cleveland 26. You got no points out of that opportunity. Brock Purdy missed CMCs, one-on-one with the linebacker. The linebacker's turn. Again, that's like Ayuk in the Rams game. You've got to hit the layups. That should be a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk, who made such a great catch against Dallas, back into the football, deep ball, he's wide open. Ward dives at that, the corner. He misses it completely, and Ayuk drops it. If he catches it, he walks in for a touchdown. In those kind of situations. They had the ball all the way down to the Cleveland 9-yard line when Moody hit the 25-yard field goal. You're inside the 10. They've been cashing those in all year for not 3 points, for 7 points. Their fifth possession. The next possession after that, they were down to the Cleveland 32. They get a delay and a sack back-to-back, and they punt. So they had opportunities in the first half, and Dennis, to your point before the game, you let them hang around and hang around and hang around and hang around, and all of a sudden at halftime they're going, hell, we might as well just win this game. They could have had them blown out of this game. They could have been up 3 touchdowns in the first half. They weren't. They let them hang around. Cleveland hung around. The weather was bad enough, whatever the calls were, whatever the missed field goal was for Jake Moody. But this shouldn't even have been a game at halftime.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, the Niners had more opportunities. You forget about the sack that Brock takes, and so many times today. And what I mean is, how many intentional grounding calls? 2 on him at least today. I don't think we've seen 2 from him in a game. This is probably the worst we've seen the O-line play. What frustrated you the most? 808 KNBR, we're with you until 4 o'clock. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion, Dennis Brown, John Lund. Niners' first loss of the season. We are keeping an eye on what happens also with Philadelphia. We'll update you on some of the scores around the league in just a little bit. But Niners fall to the Cleveland Browns 19-17. Jake Moody misses a field goal. 41-yarder as time didn't expire. They celebrated as that time expired, but there was like 6 seconds on the clock. The ref had to throw a flag. I was like, oh, nice for an unsportsmanlike now on Cleveland. Niners fall, though, in a game where they were outplayed really all day long. The worst we've seen Brock Purdy play. He put it together on the final drive, but it was too little, too late. They did not play well enough throughout. We'll talk about the defense, too, because I think relative to how Cleveland played, the defense for the Niners, you go 19 points. Like, it wasn't all that bad. They got gashed on the ground, but they were out there a lot. 3 straight 3-and-outs, including a pick, the first of the year for Brock Purdy to start the third quarter. We'll take your calls next. 808 KNBR. See you guys holding on the line. What bothered you the most? What's the most concerning about this loss? We'll talk about it next on the Sports Leader.
Sports Leader. think it's a learning experience for us. We had a good idea that it was going to be that type of game, just scrappy till the end. It's an unbelievable defense, and we needed to match their intensity, and we let up too much. So definitely a learning experience of how teams are going to attack us, especially teams who know our scheme because they run a similar scheme. But yeah, you just got to take it as a learning experience. I don't think we deserve to win today.
That is Nick Bosa. The 49ers lose 19-17 in Cleveland. They had that 7-0 lead because they always score on their opening drive. Their 38 points on opening drives lead the NFL, but after that it was tough sledding most of the way. We talked about the third quarter. Defensively, they gave up 160 yards on the ground at nearly 5 yards a pop. That is not very 49ers defense-like, as you heard Nick Bosa say that they did not deserve to win. Maybe for the first time in his career, Brock Purdy struggles throughout an entire start, and his first loss in a game that he has played from start to finish. So those are some of the things. Jake Moody misses a 41-yarder to the right to end the game. He had missed a 54-yarder. He had been 9 for 9 on field goals and 20 for 20 on extra points going into the game.
Can I make a note real quick?
Go ahead.
They had not attempted a field goal in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He hadn't attempted a field goal since the Thursday night game against, is that right? The Thursday night game against the Giants.
Well, and clearly I'm not a kicker, and I'm not putting the blame on him, but from my standpoint, it almost looked like, just because I'm equating it to golf, is that you overcorrect. And so, and this comes back to Robbie Gould and a veteran. And again, I'm not ripping on the kid because there's a lot of different reasons why the 49ers lost today. But the most glaring, obviously, is a missed 41-yarder that a NFL kicker should make. But he went left on the first one, and then he was thinking to himself, maybe, okay, I went left, I'm going to go a little bit more right, and then he went too far right. That 41-yarder was never within, I mean, it just barely missed, but it never was on line, and it went right the entire time. So that's where you have that veteran kicker, like a Gold or somebody else, who has been in these stadiums numerous times and knows that the wind can shift and knows which side does what. And it just, that's what happens when you have rookie kickers. And again, I'm not ripping the decision and I'm not ripping the kid. I'm just simply saying Robbie Gould said this in the offseason. I can't remember who interviewed him. It might have been Mayoko. And he just said, look, rookie kickers are going to miss certain kicks. It takes a couple of 2-3 times through the league. That's why a lot of young kickers get cut, because they miss those key kicks. The team gets frustrated. Then they get onto another team and they're fine. But it's because they've kicked in enough stadiums, the majority of the stadiums, that they understand wind patterns and what to do and how to correct and not overcorrect. And it just takes a minute, just like every other position in the league. And for him, he pushed one left, and they thought, okay, I pushed too far left, then I pushed one right. And the 49ers are going to have to live with it because that's a decision they made.
I always feel like it's sort of the logic of why a college basketball team hasn't gone undefeated in so long, because it's tough for those teams to get that far and not be down 7 points with 3 minutes to play or 2 minutes to play. They look up and they've never been in that situation before. If there's anything to take from this, you hope he does learn, because you want him to get through it. And it's like a baseball pitcher. Same thing. You go through the battles and guys adjust to you. You start to learn different fields and whatnot. But I'm happy it happens week 6 rather than week 16. If it happens week 16 again, I'll be pissed, though. Let's go out to the phone lines. 808 KNBR is the phone number to call. Niners lose 19-17, first loss of the year. I'm a little bit shocked. I really didn't see it coming like this. When they went up 10-0, I was like, they're cruising.
After that first drive, I was thinking, this is going to be a done
I was
deal.
putting Smokey Robinson on. I love it. Yeah, wow. So we'll get to your calls here on what you were most disappointed in, what frustrated you the most. Lots here. Penalties, sloppy play, sloppy line play. You lose 2 big players to injury, and we'll see what happens with Trent Williams. Let's go out to Steve. Steve's in Bend, Oregon. Steve, you're on the Sports Leader. What's going on?
Yeah, you could blame the personal foul that should have been called on Gibson. You could blame it on the intentional grounding that should have been a fumble.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at Wilkes. I'm looking at Wilkes' calls. First of all, Kareem Hunt's 16-yard run. There was nobody on the perimeter. Nobody. I've never seen that happen before. He's so confident, thinking they're just going to go up the middle. He was untouched around the left side, and then they couldn't stop the screen pass. Because if rushers are going up trying to sack, they couldn't stop the screen pass. I thought. Plus,
they got a couple called back. Remember, Njoku had 2 called back. One was a touchdown early. So yeah, it wasn't for that. So I'm really disappointed by the defensive play calls.
Yeah, and a lot of that is technique too. I mean, when you talk about contain, I mean, when you're playing defensive line and you're an end, you've got one job. You've got contain. You can't bite on anything that's coming down the middle. You can't bite on anything going away from you. You got to contain. You got to have that contain. And a lot of those screens and a lot of those guys are running up the football field. and the screens are coming in right behind you. So you got to be aware when those offensive linemen just let you rush. I mean, you're not that great of a pass rusher that you're, 2 steps and you're in the backfield. You got to be aware of that stuff. So a lot of that stuff is just technique, and just, you have to realize that teams are trying to use against you what you do well, and that's get up to football field.
Steve, we appreciate the call, man. Dennis, I was just, Steve said his frustration was with the defense, and I see that, but I also, like I said a minute ago, relative to, and maybe we'll kind of make that the difference maker here, is that the defense, I thought, was the strength of the 49ers in this game. They're the reason they hung around in the second half. Yeah. They got some stops. I thought it's funny that the Cleveland defense looked so good even when they were losing. I thought, man, I trust them right now more than I trust the Niners to get a stop, because it seems like they're just holding and the Niners are kind of bending and not breaking. They were holding them out of the end zone. And so we'll make that the difference maker here, how the defense play. We'll get into that in just a sec. Sponsored by Benjamin Moore Paints. Experience the Benjamin Moore retail difference at our independently owned authorized retailers today or at benjaminmoore.com. In terms of how the defense played, I thought, if your defense holds opponents to 19 points in today's game, I think you should win the game. That's kind of the way I look at it. I think Kyle Shanahan would tell you that. I think the offense believes that. I think the defense probably believes that's for them. They probably think they could have played better. They probably could have gotten more stops. And I think, to Steve's point, there were some plays that got away from them. I thought that they tried to generate pressure on a fairly inexperienced quarterback, which is what they were doing on the other side of things. And it worked against Brock in a way we haven't seen before. It didn't quite hurt them in the way that we thought it would, even with a couple of turnovers.
Well, it was tighter coverage, in the secondary. I mean, Cleveland was coming with those blitzes. They were getting home. They were pressuring Brock, but there was tight coverage. And it felt like on the other side of the ball, the coverage wasn't as tight as far as the 49ers win. And when you talk about defense, you look at the Cleveland's defense. I mean, they were getting off the football field. They weren't on the field. They were putting their offense in position to put points or to kind of milk the clock a little bit. The 49ers defense was on the field the entire second half.
How exhausting is that?
Field.
3 straight 3-and-outs. How tired are you?
Oh, it's tiring. I mean, trying to rush the passer, trying to defend the run, and then you got these long drives, and then your offense goes out and it goes three and out. It gets tiring after a while. It wears on you. I think you saw it because you saw Kinlaw playing a lot in the second half.
We criticize because we have such high standards, and I want to reiterate, they're 17-1 in their last 18. They're fine. But defensively, I think if you asked them, they feel like when Demo got the pick and Jordan Mason scored the touchdown in the fourth quarter and they're up 17-13, that they're going to win that football game. They're not going to allow Cleveland with P.J. Walker to beat them, and with an offensive line that's missing 3 starters and a left tackle that's not very good. And yet they ran it for 160. They got 2 field goal drives. They got the one that pulled it to 17-16, and they got the short one, and that one became easy after the Ford 22-yard run, and that's how they lost 19-17. They gave up 2 drives for field goals in the final quarter.
But they got off the field. I mean, they were off the field. That I hate blaming penalties, and I'm not going to blame penalties, but they were about it on the broadcast. Like, if you want to call the defensive holding one on Mooney Ward, that's on first down, fine. It's after you've already given them the first down. But there was nothing wrong with the hard hit.
The Gibson was shoulder to shoulder.
Dean Blandino on the broadcast said
I agree.
as much, and I get it. You can't review that play, but it's so frustrating.
And what people have to understand is that then that brings up 4th and 10.
Yeah.
And then you're going to bring the house at P.J. Walker. He probably doesn't.
It felt like you didn't allow the players to decide the game.
Yeah,
I felt like there were some questionable calls. And what's funny is like the P.J. Walker one that our caller Steve in Oregon just mentioned, the intentional grounding that was not reviewable because it was grounding, and he ruled it incomplete. I for the life of me, fumble. I will never understand why they are not coached to just let the play out.
They do 99% of the time.
Why?
That used to be a major issue.
So fast before Bosa
I don't know why he did that.
it.
Well, here's the other thing too, because they did replay it, and it was a clear recovery by Bosa. They still said that he was pushing the ball forward, and I don't see how they say that was pushing the ball forward. I'd love a better explanation on that, because they did go back and review that, and they said he was pushing the ball forward. The ball came out of his hand. That was an empty hand.
Did they review it, though? Because it wasn't a turnover and not inside. Because I thought they were talking about it.
They reviewed it.
Because my understanding was they ruled it So what's a reviewable play for an official? Can they call it on any?
Well, even if they blow it dead, the reason why you get frustrated on a blown dead play is that
you can
can't
just wait for him
advance.
to. I'm okay with not getting a touchdown, but let Bosa recover it at 3.
And they would have called it that, but they reviewed it and they said that he was going forward. And Kyle said after the game, that's not how he saw it. He said he saw it on the board. I don't know how they come to the conclusion that Walker's hand is going forward. And again, I'm not trying to say the officials lost the game because they didn't, but there are 3 key plays that you just said. That ball that was a fumble, I think, by Walker, clearly recovered by Bosa, and they said it was going forward. The Gibson play was shoulder to shoulder. And look, I know that we don't want to get into reviewing everything, but when you come,
at some point, somebody's got to be upstairs. Like, dude, you're changing the course of the game because this isn't a penalty and you didn't see it right, and we're not allowed to review it.
Right.
Like, I know they say blown calls are part of it, but not really in football anymore because we review so much. So why don't we get it all right?
What Belichick wants is he just wants, look, you have X amount of reviews and you can review anything. Because when it came in, when they did the 1 year with PI, it was a disaster. I get that. But a play like that can decide the game because instead of first down, they get a 15-yard penalty there. Instead of first down, it's 4th and 10 against the 49ers defense with P.J. Walker.
It's just not no gain on 3 straight.
I don't think he's converting that, and that play converted a first down, and they got a field goal later on in the drive.
And again, you hate to. They got outplayed. I told you they lined up for the field goal to win it, and I thought, this would be stealing a win right now for how they played and how they played in the second half. Third quarter, Brock Purdy 1 for 3 passing. He completed 1, threw 1 incomplete, and threw 1 interception. Let's go out to BJ. BJ's in San Francisco. BJ, you're on the Sports Leader. What's going on?
Well, 49er fan from the Keys days. I was really confused about why we had a 1-point lead in their territory. It's time to start running out the clock, and he does 3 quick passes and out. I did not understand that at all. So this was a team effort for losing.
Team loss for
and
sure.
The coaching, too.
I appreciate the call, BJ. I'm not sure which 17-16, which driver series he's talking about, John, off the top of your head.
I'll go right
I'll have
back
to look
to
up
the
the series here. We'll look up the drive chart there. Niners do lose to the Browns 19-17. Adam Copeland, John Lund, Super Bowl champ Dennis Brown hanging with you. 808 KNBR. I see you guys hanging on the line. Greg, Dre, Don, Connor, everybody on the text line and checking in on our YouTube stream, by the way. We are streaming live like we do all the KNBR shows throughout the week. KNBR.com and the KNBR YouTube page as well as the KNBR Twitch stream. Did I buy you enough time, John?
I'm going slow here.
No worries. We'll take a quick break. We got plenty more time. We're hanging with you till about 4 o'clock today. Niners fall to the Browns, 19-17. This was a frustrating loss. Of all the variables, it's the first time we've seen Brock Purdy really look flustered and look this bad. He put it together in that final drive. It doesn't sound like anybody's blaming Moody, but it is frustrating because it's a rookie kicker. People who didn't want it then go, this is why we didn't want it, though. You got to have an automatic guy when you get somebody.
I got you real quick.
There.
Just as the previous caller said, it was 17-16 49ers. They take over at their own 25 at 3:21. And so what you're looking to do here is obviously kill the 3 minutes. First play, Brock Purdy incomplete. And then there's a penalty on that was the intentional grounding one for Purdy, and then that put him behind the sticks, and that's
right.
why they had
like
to
first
throw.
And 25 or whatever.
And I don't know that should have been, but they called it, and so now because you lose the down on that kind of a penalty, 2nd and 21 at the 14, you got to throw it at that point. Ayuk gets 10 yards on that one, brings it back to 3rd and 11, so now they're back to the original line of scrimmage. And then Purdy just has to throw that one away because he got pressure, and then they punted. So they
know exactly the drive you're talking about, and I forgot about it.
They took off 16 seconds on the clock.
BJ's got a gripe, dude. We'll run through that, dude. Some of these drives.
It was because of the intentional grounding. Because at that point now you're 2nd and 21. You got to start throwing it.
His gripe is why are you throwing there at all? His gripe is like why are you throwing there at all? Run the ball. Run the damn ball. That's usually the football mantra when you lose a game. Frustrating loss today, 19-17. We'll get more of your calls, your reaction. What frustrated you most about this one, and what does the health look like going forward? Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey. We'll talk about it next on the Sports Leader.
I said a lot in there. The main thing is that, I think they earned it and we didn't this game. That's what it came down to. I would never put it on Moody at the end there to say, it's great that we had an opportunity to win that, in that fashion, but we didn't earn it. They earned it today. I said that win or loss, I felt like we needed this game. We knew what type of game it was going to be. In order for us to be the team that we want to be moving forward, we need to get battle tested. That's exactly what today was. We learned from it, watch the tape, look at it hard internally, and be better from it.
As Fred Warner, 49er linebacker, as the Niners lose 19-17 in Cleveland to the Browns. And it's just a lot of facets of this game just did not go well. We'll get into some of that in just a minute and taking your calls, 808 KNBR. We'll get to all you guys who are hanging on hold here in just a minute. One of the key elements, and I've said this a couple of times, and you guys can give your opinion on this, is how well or not well Brock Purdy was protected, right? Saw him blitz 85% of the time against the New York Giants. That's not the same defense, right? I mean, this is different personnel. The Cowboys did not look the same. This was a far different looking defense than any the 49ers have seen this year. Protecting the quarterback, sponsored by the Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff. Protect your community and apply for a new career in law enforcement at cocosheriff.org today. And sponsored by Bay Alarm. Worry less about your people and your property with Bay Alarm, bayalarm.com. Dennis, that was. Were you impressed with the defensive line play of Cleveland?
You know what? I was, and it was a different type of pressure. I mean, it felt like Brock was really affected. I mean, you saw it in the fourth quarter. He was really affected, by whatever scheme they had set up. It was in his face. He was trying to get rid of the ball, but I think the key thing is that that secondary coverage, it was tight. I mean, there was a couple drop balls, a couple missed opportunities. But I think as a defense, as a whole, I mean, they all that was advertised, and we talked about this being the number one defense in the National Football League. I think they showed it today. I mean, they showed it today against an offense that's put up over 30 points every football game, and you hold them to, what was it, 14 points, 17 points, 14 points, the 49ers.
Yeah, 17.
17 points. I mean, you hold this to 17 points. I think the defense played really well. I think they went out and they really showed that they are the number one defense in the National Football League.
Look, Cleveland's good. Their defense is really good. The thing that is going to sting, and we'll see what this loss means later. Dennis, I absolutely defer to you on this. Strange to me that in the locker room is like, we needed this. I don't think you ever need a loss. I think I think that this was a perfect setup. We talked about it in the pregame show. You beat Dallas. Everybody's telling you how great you are, and I know how focused this team is. I get it, but it's human nature. You beat Dallas. You got up for Dallas. You knew what they did. You kicked their butt. Everybody told you how great you are all week. Then you got to go play an early game in Cleveland. They've got their third-string quarterback. They got a ton of injuries. I just don't think they were ready for this game. They weren't fired up, and Cleveland was fired up. And every week you come in, and you know this, Dennis, from the teams that you were on that were so good. Cleveland's Super Bowl is the 49ers. How do we stack up? How good are we? This defense is like, oh, yeah, they're the best defense. Last week, this defense rose up against Dallas, who thought they had the best defense. I thought today Cleveland rose up against the 49ers, and they found themselves in a dogfight in a game that, because of all the injuries for the Browns, they thought they were going to win. I mean, they were 10-point favorites. I think that's the biggest spread of the week. And they came in, Cleveland was punching them in the face just like the 49ers punched the Cowboys in the face, and they just weren't ready for it.
I think the Dolphins might have been a little bit bigger. Weren't the Dolphins like 12 or 14?
Yeah, maybe it was.
The Bills are pretty big, I think, tomorrow.
Carolina. But, I mean, 10 in the NFL is a big number.
Double digits is huge.
Yeah.
And so, you start reading into that stuff, and I just think Cleveland brought it to them. And then once the game starts, you find yourself in a fight. And between the penalties – and there was some questionable calls, there's no question, but they had opportunities. I mean, if they cash in at least a field goal on the Fred Warner interception, all of a sudden you're up 10-0 that early. If you get a touchdown there, Brandon Ayuk drops a pass that he usually catches. Brock misses CMC on a play that a ball that he usually puts in his hands, all those kind of things. I'm not using injuries as an excuse. You can't use the Debo injury and the Trent injury and the there's one I'm missing in
Trent
there.
Debo McCaffrey.
McCaffrey. Because they were on their third-string quarterback without maybe the best left guard in the league, without their right tackle, without one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the league besides McCaffrey. I mean, they had a ton of injuries, and they overcame it. So it stinks that happens. They have been largely healthy to this point in the season, but to say that, look, Brock played right into the pundits' hands, the national narrative, and get ready to be pissed off all week because it's going to be, see, he can't do it without McCaffrey. He can't do it without Debo. That's what it's going to be on the national shows all week long.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're going to talk about is that he's not going to be – it's so funny, too, because they look and they go, well, he can't do it unless everything goes right. I'm like, Yeah, so a guy's got to have a good team around him to have a good team and have success. This isn't the end-all be-all. We've seen him play really, really well a bunch. We've seen him do it at a higher level this year than we did last year. He was asked to do something that we haven't seen him do yet. We saw him win a game in the rain when he was injured last season on a short week where he didn't get to practice all week long. 808 KNBR, what about this bothers you the most? What element of this game? Lot of variables going into Cleveland. Niners come back on home. Then they're going to go back on the road, another long road trip out to Minnesota, but a long time off in between. They play Monday night, a week from tomorrow in Minnesota. Let's go out to Don. Don's in Fairfield. Don, didn't like the passing attack today. Hey, Don, me neither, man. What's going on?
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. Long-time caller, or listener, and first-time caller.
Thank you.
I just think that, instead of going for these 20, 30-yard passes, they should have went 5-yard slants, 5 yards to the flat. He didn't make any adjustments, I don't think, in the second half. I mean, you see that the balls are flying. His hands, it was slipping out, and they weren't getting the deep passes that they normally get. So Kyle needed to adjust to that and get some shorter routes. And you can't leave the game on the referee's hands or even the kickers.
Right.
You got to go out there and want it and win it. And that's what they didn't do today. And you can't blame it on Purdy. Did everything he was supposed to do on that last drive. He got him down in field goal range and did everything he was supposed to, even without McCaffrey, even without Debo. So you can't blame it on him. This is a group team loss, and it as much as it hurts, I think we needed that punch in the mouth. So it's just to see how they're going to bounce back from this.
Yeah, and it kind of felt like they were trying to do some of these quick slants, but it really felt like Purdy was off for some reason. I mean, he was throwing the ball behind a little bit. He missed a couple over the head, and it felt like Kyle was trying to get those quick slants, get those yak yards. Brandon dropped a few. It just felt like and I know it was the pressure, but it just felt like Brock Purdy was off. And, he was way off. Ball was either too low or he was shorthanding it or just throwing it too high. So, and that's part of the game. And we talk about getting smacked in the mouth. And they had the opportunity to smack Cleveland in the mouth early in this football game, put it out, but they didn't. You let them stick around and you believe you can do it, and your defense is playing really well. So you just believe you could win a football game. I think that's what they did.
I also think they kind of had a game plan and they just stuck to it, right? They have a style of play. They're just going to run the ball. And you see this all the time when a quarterback is a style of quarterback, and what was the guy's name? Hundley, who was the quarterback for Baltimore last year, the backup.
Brett Hundley, yeah.
Brett Hundley, Pro Bowler, by the way, last year.
Tyler Huntley.
Huntley, not Hundley. Brett Hundley was the other quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Huntley. Anyway, he's like he's a mobile quarterback. You want to have a guy who fits that mold. You didn't always used to do that. The same can be true about running backs, and I think Jerome Ford is that kind of guy. Kareem Hunt is just the sort of change of pace back, and he had a couple of really tough runs too. He is a hard runner. Kareem Hunt, and they came off a bye week. I mean, these guys were fresh. They had 2 weeks to prepare for this one. They had a lot of tape on the 49ers, and Jim Schwartz has Kyle Shanahan's number. I mean, ownage is just kind of ownage, right? Krug and Kipe have talked about that for years with baseball. So it's a loss for the Niners. They are 5-1.
Not a bad record. 5-1.
Not bad, but it's not 6-0. Dre is in Lemoore. Dre, what's up, man? You're on the Sports Leader.
Thanks for taking my call, guys. You are correct. It's not 6-0. And as far as Schwartz goes, all game long, I was looking at him. Who is this guy? Then I'm thinking he hates the Niners. Even though Harbaugh is not there, he's still not happy about getting patted on the back that game.
Do you think any D coordinator is really happy though, facing Kyle Shanahan? Do you think any coordinator wanted to go up against any is real happy going against a tough QB like that? You kind of got to be pissed off to be a D coordinator.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, Purdy, he had his worst game by far. His spirals were not tight. And as you said earlier, I'm going to really hate watching sports talk this week because it's going to be what I've been hearing is, can he bring a team back? Can he bring them back? Well, you know what? He did bring them back. It's not his fault the field goal was missed. He brought the team back when he needed to at the end. And as far as the kicker goes, I've been a Niner fan for a long time. I remember the 82 season, the year after we won the Super Bowl, to get into the playoffs. I seen Worshing miss against the Rams the last game of the year. I seen Kofor for Steve Young miss a lot of important game-winning field goals, and I can put Purdy in that company just because all these other quarterbacks, I consider Purdy to be there. So it's not his fault. Moody missed. Hey, hopefully Moody comes around. By far his worst game. And, guys, it's one of the first times all season where I've seen Purdy's getting the pressure in his face and the other quarterback really wasn't.
Yeah, it was. Well, here's the thing, Dre. We got to let you go. We got to take a quick break here. I think they did get pressure, and John, I don't know when those pressure stats come out. If you look at all that stuff, or the next gen stuff, or the analytics stuff, when they give you the pressure stats, I usually wait for like David Lombardi and those guys to put it out. And I don't know how they analyze that, or if they go back and watch the tape. We got some music going. How about that?
Wow,
that was nice, dude. That's like our commercial music. But if that's playing, then
somebody in an elevator.
But if we're here, then I'm confused. About how the commercial music could be playing through. Anyway, I lost my train of thought there. The analytic stats. It totally threw me for a loop. I was like, what's going on? The analytic stats of the. I totally lost.
Pressures.
Thank you. Pressures. Yeah. On how much they were getting to, because it seemed like Brock had guys in his face the whole time. It seemed like every time he snapped it. And we had a caller earlier who said, why weren't they running the ball more to run the clock at the end? It's not like they were getting yardage doing anything. Right. Well, we can run down some of the plays in the second half. The third quarter was real easy. There wasn't a lot of them. There was 9. They had a total of negative 12 yards on 9 plays and an interception in the third quarter. That was it. That's the worst quarter of the year. I'm going to run down some of the other drive sheets for the other games. I don't think they've had, to your point, Dennis, about the defense being exhausted, I don't think they've had another stretch of 3 series of 9 plays and out this season. Certainly not with turnovers. So we will get more into this one. Connor in Dublin, I see you hanging on the line, dude. You've been hanging for a while. We'll get to you, man, and to your call. 808 KNBR, and we will hit some of you guys on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line as well. We'll get to all of that when we come on back, and we got more to get to in this one. Niners fall to the Cleveland Browns in a frustrating loss. We got to get into some of the injuries, too. How concerned are we about the Debo one? It's a shoulder. Always a concern with a receiver dealing with a shoulder, having a jam at the line, and as physical as Debo is. And Christian McCaffrey, oblique, soft tissue stuff, always a worry as well. More to come. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund, 808 KNBR. Niners lose 17-19 to the Browns on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't feel good at all. You know, it's football, and, you know, I just try to fight through it for my teammates. You know, I know they got a Hall of Fame rusher over there in 95, and, you know, I wanted to get back out there so I could kind of help my team, you know, try to contain him. I didn't want to put Jalen in that position.
That's Trent Williams of the 49ers, who for the first time was going up against Myles Garrett, who was nasty today, dude. That defense is ferocious for Cleveland. By the way, what's that logo in the middle of the field? You see that thing?
Yeah,
it's like an elf. Is that like an old? It seemed like it was a super old school looking.
It's a mean elf, I think it was.
Yeah, seemed offensive. We should cancel.
Or
that
was it a knoll or something like that?
A knoll?
I don't know. What is that? I just made
it's
that.
It's a Paul
word
Brown.
up.
That's what it is.
No, it's like the old Domino's Pizza. What was that thing? Right?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
What was that thing called?
Yeah, it can't be the Noid. There
Noid.
You go.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it looked like a Noid.
Noid. Yeah, the Noid went away, and for good reason, I think.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't a big hit.
No.
Send it away. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you following a Niner loss to the Browns, 1917. Frustrating on a whole lot of fronts. And the number one is that we were talking, dude, John, before the game, you were saying it was this week 6 last year, where I don't want to say the wheels had come off because it was a much different start to the season. Trade already gotten hurt week 2. You lost in Chicago in bad fashion in a weird game in week 1. Then Jimmy steps out of the back of the end zone after beating Seattle in Denver, so you're 1-2. Like, remember all that? We're like just like riding a bike, and then he's like, well, I need some time to get adjusted to the offense again. It was a weirder run to start the season. So when you were missing 9 defensive starters, the way that everything had gone health-wise for the Niners, it just kind of felt like it was sort of par for the course with how stuff had gone for the last few years. This year they'd been totally healthy until today, which brings us to our injury report, sponsored by Hughes Orthopedics, specializing in regenerative medicine therapies to heal chronic pain without surgery. Call 650-343-KNEE. Kyle Shanahan met with the media after the game. A lot of big names got hurt today. What are their statuses? Here's what Kyle said.
Trent Williams had an ankle, he returned. Debo had a shoulder, did not. George Odom, thigh, didn't return. And Christian McCaffrey had a oblique/rib.
So there you go. We don't know the status of them. Obviously, we know which guys returned and did not. He didn't mention some of them either. Like Debo Lenore.
Did he say Debo?
Debo got hurt with a shoulder and didn't return. And that was
they're
early.
saying that the initial thought is that the X-rays are negative, which means it's positive. Try to keep up, and they're going to do an MRI tomorrow on it. As far as Trent Williams, he walked out, according to our own Matt Mayoko. He was in in one of those immobilizing walking boots, so that's never good.
He might just wear those. You know what I mean? Like, he's such a big dude.
Yeah, he just
might just wear them for style.
Extra support.
He's such a big guy. He's like, yeah, it's a big
By
boot.
the way, how would you feel if you were Jalen Moore when basically what Trent Williams said was, yeah, Jalen sucks, and he was going to get eaten up by Myles Garrett, so I had to stay in there with a bad ankle because I'm better with a bad ankle than he is at 100%. That's essentially what he said.
Well, I mean, he said it. I mean, he started off. He said, a Hall of Famer, and Trent Williams is a Hall of Famer too.
Right.
So I mean,
like, I ain't missing this.
I mean, you wouldn't leave your guy hanging against a Hall of Famer when you think you can go. You got to get out there, and you're two Hall of Famers. I mean, that's what.
Right.
And Garrett, I mean, he didn't. I mean, he had some plays in the game, but he didn't take over the football game. So
no,
that was a great match. The other guy,
man, there was.
I can't say his name. How do you say his name?
Yeah, the linebacker,
Yeah, that guy. I mean, he was. He kind of wrecked the game a little bit. So yeah, so he was really in the face, but. Myles Garrett, I mean, it was 2 Hall of Famers banging it. And I appreciate that. I appreciate Trent saying that. I mean, his ankle, you saw his ankle get rolled up and put some tape on it, or whatever you do, and you go back out there and you ball. And, and that's what you need in football. That's that toughness. You talk about toughness. That's that toughness in football.
I got to tell you, that's how crazy football is relative to other sports and how, it changes your line of thinking. Trent got hurt, and I don't know if you guys thought this. I thought it was a knee. I was concerned it was a knee because he looked like maybe his foot was planted and he got kind of fallen on there, right? And then he was laying there and he looked like he reached kind of down near the calf or something. I was like, oh, man, this is not good. Then they say he's getting taped up, and I'm like, oh, dude, he's coming back. Yeah. I was like, sweet, it's just an ankle? I'm like, this guy's I remember the high ankle sprain, blocking against another Hall of Fame defensive end, and maybe probably now the best defense and probably defensive line in all of football. Niners lose 19-17. We'll talk more about the numbers in just a minute. Connor is in Dublin. Connor wants to talk about the line. Biggest concern for him was the line. Which side of it? Defensive line, offensive line? What's up, Connor?
I guess I also have another aspect I wanted to talk about. But I guess first the line. It was disappointing, seeing, all that pressure coming on to Purdy. I feel like it shouldn't have been that way, but it was. But I guess I feel like Also, I'm surprised you guys haven't mentioned the mental aspect of it. I play high school football, so I know what it feels like to, come in confident. You come in, you score, you're cruising like you guys said in the beginning, and then you guys take your foot off the gas and you start half-assing stuff, I guess. But I don't think they did that. But I think when the Browns bounced back, those injuries threw everything off, and then it all went bad there, I guess. So that mental aspect of it is definitely a big part.
Can you speak to that, Dennis? To what Connor's talking about?
Yeah, I mean, and I get it, and I understand it. I mean, you come in, you're 10 points favored, your offense goes out, you go right down the football field, you score, then you come back and you get a turnover. At one point, the 49ers were up 10-0. And then you let them back in the football game. I mean, you let a team. I mean, at that opportunity, you have the opportunity, and you talk about, Connor, you talk about the mental part of it. A lot of it is mental. If you get after a football team and you make them believe that they're going to lose a football game, they're going to lose a football game. But if you make them believe they can stay in a football game and fight, they're going to stay in it. And Cleveland has a defense that's going to keep you in football games. And the offense, I mean, you're talking about a quarterback that was in the XFL last season, right? Or 2 seasons ago. So, I mean,
2019 or something?
Yeah, so, you make him believe. And, he gets some throws, and he's got a running game behind them to keep that confidence up, and you let them stay in the football game. And even at the end of the football game, the 49ers, that kick should go through. It should go through. But the entire football game, you've let this team, this Cleveland offense, at least believe that they can play against this elite defense, the 49ers.
Plus, guys, to his point, offensively, Tomlinson, who used to be with the Giants, he dominated on the inside. I mean, we talked about Myles Garrett, and Myles Garrett didn't do as much because Trent Williams is really good. And I was concerned more about, the other side. But the interior of the offensive line got their butts whipped. I mean, they couldn't do anything against the Cleveland front. And then on the defensive side, I guess my thing would be, and Randy Gregory was pretty good today, by the way. He had 3 pressures, a couple of quarterback
hits. He got a
hits.
sack. How about that? That was kind of cool.
Yeah. He had a couple good run play, good gun defenses, too.
I liked him. He played well. Bosa had a nice sack in this game. But
by the way, end of the game, he was out there a lot more than just third down.
Yeah,
I would have to look at the snaps, but at one point he would just played like 15 into the fourth, and then I saw him out there on first down for a couple of plays.
I think that I think that they're going to play him more and more because they're just not getting enough from Furl and
Jackson.
They've tried to give these guys opportunities, but they're just not stepping up. And you can see that even if he doesn't know the defense, Randy Gregory can give him some juice, and they got to make sure that they try with him. But the thing is Jedrick Wills is not a very good left tackle. Jack Conklin's out. You got a rookie at right tackle. Batonio's out at the left guard. Posick, their center, was banged up. So I mean, you got 2 guys out. You got one guy that's bad. And you got another guy that's banged up that's playing. I thought that they should have dominated the Browns' offensive line, and give the Browns credit. But if this defensive line is everything that we say that it is, they should have dominated. And Dennis, as you say, for every game, it's a game won and lost at the line of scrimmage. And I know about the kicks and the opportunities and all the different things, but the bottom line to the whole thing is, and I think this is why people keep saying out of the 49ers locker room, we didn't deserve to win. Well, deserve really has nothing to do with it. But if you're going to base it on games being won in the trenches, the Browns kick their ass. Flat out.
Yeah.
On both sides.
It wasn't even close. How many? Was it only 3 sacks of Brock?
It was 3.
They got 2 intentional groundings, right?
And they got 6 quarterback hits. The Niners actually had 9 quarterback hits.
Didn't feel like that.
Yeah, no. Look, P.J. Walker wasn't great. I think that's, again, they're going to look back at this tape and see so many missed opportunities. But a banged-up offensive line at least held their own for the Browns, and the defensive line, especially from the inside out, and then the speed of the linebackers, which was underrated. They have really good linebackers and safeties in Cleveland. And, you'd expect a guy like Kittle, who had the 3 touchdowns, to step up. But as you said this earlier, Dennis, they had to have him staying and blocking.
He was in there the whole time.
I mean, he didn't have opportunities because they just weren't getting it done. So, it was a struggle, but we talk often about how the 49ers beat teams in the trenches. The Browns beat the 49ers in the trenches.
Yep.
We will talk more about this. We'll take a quick break and come on back. But first, also, just quick check of the text line here. You can check in the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. 808 KNBR is the number to text and to call. I see a few of you guys hanging on the phone line. We'll get to more calls of yours when we come on back. I see a fan here saying, or somebody here on the phone lines is saying, maybe fans need to pump the brakes on the 49ers. I don't know about that. I will ask this question, though. In terms of the injuries, we haven't really talked about Christian McCaffrey. And oblique is pretty weird. We talked about the usage. We talked about the hits he's been taken and how he really, really gets beat up. I mean, you can't hit quarterbacks in certain ways. He's smaller than a lot of quarterbacks and takes these hits in the middle of these defensive lines. So what does his usage look like? What does Elijah Mitchell look like? TDP is the other guy you've got, Ty Davis-Price.
Mason's the one.
JP Mason is looking like a rocket right now. He's maybe the freshest of all the guys they have, considering their usage over the last couple of years. But do any of these injuries make you nervous about the future for the Niners? I personally am not quite even there with McCaffrey. I think they could get by with even less usage from McCaffrey. We'll talk more about that. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund. Niners are 5-1, long time off as they come home from Cleveland before they head back to Minnesota Monday Night Football next week. We'll talk more about it on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely dive in on the tape and, like Fred said, look inward. I think everybody on the defense could improve, including myself. And it's early. We haven't lost in a long time in the regular season, so it hurts a little more. But yeah, definitely big time learning experience.
I can never tell these voices. Who was that? Just kidding. Nick Bosa there, of course. I can never tell. Dude, I'm not joking. You can play them like after they went to the Super Bowl in 2019, and his tone will be the exact same. Niners lose today, though, 19-17. Tough loss. I will say, like, you kind of want to get hit in the mouth and know what it looks like and what it feels like earlier than than later, right? It's tough to be. We were talking last week that they were so dominant over the team that everybody thought was maybe the closest to them outside of the Eagles, that they were so dominant over the Cowboys that there may not be a team that could catch them. And it's good to get caught, I think. It's good to get humbled, and it happens a lot in this league. It gets served up easily, I feel like, Dennis.
Yeah, and, I mean, you don't want to ever get smacked in the mouth. I mean, but it's good to get something like this out your system early, then you have an opportunity to correct it.
If you get it out.
If it happens in the playoffs, it's a done deal.
Yeah.
But, you're going to lose. You're going to lose in the NFL. You're going to lose in any sport. Now, how do you bounce back from it? I mean, it is a learning experience. I mean, you understand now that a team, they saw something in the tape that they kind of exposed, and you got to figure that part out. And the good thing about it is it's early in the season. Like Nick said, you can correct it. I mean, you don't want to have a game like this in the playoffs, and then you're done for the season. But you're going to lose some games. It's just how you bounce back from it.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Jump out.
Well, I'm going to jump out. I'm going to jump into our post-game interview here. Kyle Shanahan spoke to the media for the first time this year after a loss. And by the way, Kyle does join myself and Tom Tolbert every week, usually on Thursdays. We'll do it this Thursday with him. Throughout the season, we'll talk to him. And John Lynch joins Murph and Mac on the KNBR Morning Show. Is it on Fridays they do that? Sam,
Fridays.
Is that right? Fridays he joins the morning show. So Friday,
about 8 o'clock usually.
There you go. So Thursday you get Kyle, and then Fridays you get John Lynch. And right now you're going to get some Kyle postgame. Our postgame interview sponsored by the Handler Union Square Hotel, San Francisco's oldest family-owned hotel. Here's the head coach of the Niners, Kyle Shanahan.
You get a chance to talk to Jake and when he's there.
I didn't get a chance to talk to anyone individually, just the whole team. But, I mean, it's always tough to miss that last kick, but that happens in football. They played better than us today, and that was the last play, but there was a lot more today than just that.
Can you walk us through the sequence before the kick on what you were thinking in terms of trying to get more yards with a timeout left there? What were you?
Just trying to get more yards and letting it go down, and then we wanted to leave it there in case there was a bad snap or something, so we could spike it and have another play. That's just what we felt.
Well, what is your message to the team after a game like this?
We went in thinking it was going to be a grimy game like it was. But it's, we would have felt really good initially, like coming in, if we made that on the last play. But my message to them was regardless of whether we hit that or not, there's a lot of stuff from this game that we got to improve on. I thought we made way too many mistakes on offense, just losing a couple guys in the game. We had to switch a couple guys around, and we weren't quite ready for that, which starts with me with too many mistakes. And this is our first time having to come in after a loss in a long time. And it's time to get back in, go to work, and make sure we come back next week stronger.
It's also the first time we've seen Brock really struggle to that degree, just not getting anything going in the passing game. Is there anything you can kind of put your finger on right away why that was such a grind today?
Yeah, I mean, we went against a very good defense to start with. That's why we expected it going in. I thought we did some good things in the first half. We had 2 opportunities in the first half to get 2 really big plays that I think would have changed a lot of it, and we missed both of them. One getting a penalty on it, so we didn't get to do it. And then we came out in the third quarter, got way behind the chains, whether it was a penalty, a stuffed run. We got in a ton of second and longs, which you tell me we get in that many second and longs, third and longs versus that defense. I got a real good idea of how it's going to go. But it wasn't just Brock, it was everybody. Everybody had their turn on offense especially, and it starts with me.
What was your view of the penalty on Gibson there?
I mean, my view was his intent wasn't at all to do that. It looked like the receiver was coming in there, jumping too, and it looked like they touched helmets from where I was. So, I mean, I don't have much of an opinion. I just didn't look that violent, but I'll see when I watch the film. I know what the rules are. So,
like maybe the contact was on the shoulder rather than helmet. Did they tell you that they thought it was on the helmet?
No, they don't tell us. Yeah, that's.
What makes this such a good defense?
I mean, the talent with scheme. I mean, they got 2 corners. They got really good. They actually got 3. They got good pass rush, really good pass rushers, and it's a really good scheme.
Dallas has talent too. You guys scored 42 on them. Why does this team have more success?
I just told you other parts.
Got that sequence before.
You don't compare 1 week to a team last week. Each Sunday's a different game.
That sequence before the half, they reviewed it, the sack, and they called it a forward pass. Did you get a good look at that or any explanation?
I did on the scoreboard. Yeah, I thought it was a fumble. I thought he underhand threw it, and I thought it came loose on his 2 thumbs, and that's why he just pushed it, and the ball came out very unnaturally for a pass because I thought the ball was loose before he did it.
How much more difficult did it become to draw stuff up that work without Devo and Christian both simultaneously out?
It's more about just getting all the guys ready for it. I mean, you got a game plan that's got enough stuff in it, but it was just moving some positions around. We just made too many mistakes.
Jim Schwartz has a history of putting together good defenses. What makes him a good defensive coordinator in this league?
Been doing it for a long time. Very sound. They know how to get there with 4 people and good coverages.
What about your own defense? Like, they were able to. They didn't have a prolific day, but they made some plays when they had to get the chance moving.
No, they're the reason we had a chance. I mean, getting that turnover at the end with Demo, helping us win the turnover battle. They're the reasons that we were in it at the end and had a chance to win. But I also still think that they can do better than that too. Giving up over 300 yards to there and not finishing it there at the end. But they were the side of the ball that gave us a chance today.
Is the run defense any concern for you at this point after 160 yards for Cleveland today?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't do good enough today. So it's I'll see on the film when I look at it. Thought we did decent at last week. We didn't today, so we'll see why that was.
Take a couple more.
How much did you guys miss Dre out there on defense to come?
What's that?
How much did you guys miss Dre Greenlaw?
I mean, you always miss your real good players. I mean, Dre's one of the better players in this league. Orange came in and done a real good job. I thought he had his best game last week, so I'll see when I get on the plane with the film, but definitely don't think that was the reason today.
What do you think of Randy Gregory's first outing?
I'll see when I watch the whole tape, but definitely I saw him make some plays. I think he got a sack in there, got a TFL, so it was nice to see him in some action.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, guys.
You can tell there's a frustrated Kyle Shanahan. Thanks for joining us. 49ers postgame. John Lund, Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown. 1917, the 49ers suffer their first loss of the season. Many missed opportunities, especially in the first half. The Cleveland defense flexes their muscle, especially in the third quarter, but he mentioned Dima Lenore with that interception. One play later, Jordan Mason busted in. 17-13, the 49ers led at that point, but 2 field goal drives at the end, aided by a couple of penalties. One on Deshaun Gibson that looked like he went shoulder to shoulder. You heard him get asked about that in the postgame as well. Talked about that fumble by P.J. Walker that was called a forward pass, but as Kyle said, it was an unnatural way. It looked like it was coming out of his hands. Nick Bosa would have recovered it. They did blow the play dead, but they would have given it to the 49ers, but they did look at it and say that he was pushing it forward, so they didn't agree with that, so they didn't get the benefit of some calls as well. 19-17, we'll head out to the lines. And if you're on the text line as well, we'll hit you up on the text line as well. But anything jump out, Dennis, from what Kyle said there?
Well, I mean, you can hear it in his voice. I mean, he was frustrated, and I think he said it well. I mean, there were a lot of missed opportunities in this football game, and he's not going to comment on the referees until I guess he has to look at the tape or whatever. But we saw. I mean, that fumble, that was a fumble. I mean, his arm was pinned, and he just kind of pushed it with his finger, and it was a fumble, and that would have been a big flip in the game because it flipped the field position. But, again, you can't put it in the ref's hands. And I think he understands that this game came down to, guys making plays. And that sack by Nick Bosa, and then to go down, your offense to go down, drive the field.
Big sack by Bosa. That's what Defensive Player of the Year do, man. That was it could have been the biggest play of the game. I had written that down. I was like, I circled it and thought this might be.
And at that point, I thought, they could pull this one out.
Game-saving play right there.
They could pull that out. And I think he understands that it came down to a kick, right?
So Armstead hugged him, too. He was like, oh, dude, thank you.
Yeah.
Armstead was hugging him and smiling like that guy,
and just the frustration. I mean, a kicker is a kicker. And I'm sure Kyle understands that. It came down to that kick. I mean, a lot of things happened, but it came down to that kick. And it's got to be frustrating when you have an opportunity and you've been beat up the entire football game. You lost guys on the field, and then it comes down to a kick. And you understand that, the kick was the win, the game. And he realizes that. I mean, he's not going to say it, but he realizes that kick, missing that kick.
Also, there was another one. I mean, if you make the earlier one, you're in a different spot, too.
Right.
There's two situations.
But they missed the kick, too. Cleveland missed the kick, too. So
they outmissed him, though.
Yeah, they outmissed. But, it comes down to the kick, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're a kicker, and the goalpost is not moving. Yeah. I know the wind's moving, but,
Well, the thing is, too, is especially with a young kicker, I think that everybody, Fred Warner said it in his postgame, and there's a couple guys, Bosa said it in his postgame, that it didn't come down to the kicker, didn't come down to the kicker. And we've talked about all the variables and all the things that the 49ers could have done. It doesn't come down to him or one play, but It really did. And so, but you're not going to rip your young kicker and lose all of his confidence and say, like if Robbie Gould had missed a kick like that, Kyle might come in the postgame and say, you know what, we expect Robbie to make those kind of kicks because Robbie's going to bounce back because he's proven it.
Yeah, dude held out too. You hold out, you better make kicks.
Right. But I mean, a young guy, you've got to maintain his confidence because look, you made the decision that you're going to keep this guy. You put a 3rd-round pick on him. I'm not down on the guy. He came in 9 for 9 on field goals, 20 for 20 on extra points. But he pushed one left for 54 after the Warner interception that could have given him a 10-0 lead early in the game. That was a big miss, and then he comes back and pushes it too far right on a 41-yarder. Again, it's not all on him, but an NFL kicker to win a game is expected to make a 41-yard field goal.
I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. 650 on the text line checks in, says, after today's performance, maybe it is time to start worrying and thinking about Philadelphia on December 3rd, or maybe it's nice to have this loss happen before you get to Philadelphia December 3rd in Philly. You go back on the road, Monday Night Football next week. We will talk more about this one. Get to a couple more of your calls. Frazier and Patrick will get out to you in just a second. And we will talk about the brightest spot in the game for the 49ers, the punting attack. That's next on the Sports Leader.
Man, like it's the NFL. You get opportunities. You gotta take advantage of them. And so there's definitely some throws and opportunities that I feel like that were there for me, and I missed on them, and that made us be behind the sticks, and then you have to get a third down, which is tough on the road here, man. And that's something I got to learn from, man. So definitely gonna be real about it, and we all gotta look ourselves in the mirror and see the flaws and stuff, and get better from it. But it starts with me. So.
49er quarterback Brock Purdy, first time he's lost in the regular season. How about that? 10-1, excuse me, in games he starts and finishes in the regular season. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you. Niners lose 17-19. A lot of streaks continued today. McCaffrey did find the end zone. Ties an NFL record.
Yeah, you score the first drive.
Careful, passing the juice now. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. Tied the juice at 15.
Hello, X-World.
Hey, X-World. Dude, you know he's going to check in on McCaffrey.
Oh, he totally
I
is.
sure hope he's okay. Hope he can play next week. I was like, Juice, why don't you stay out of this one, bro?
Lay low, bro.
Lay low, Juice. I know one record he won't. We won't get into it. All right. So Christian McCaffrey goes out with an injury, but he extends that touchdown streak. Brock Purdy's streak of consecutive passes, I think the number was 248.
Yes.
248
exactly right.
consecutive passes without an interception thrown.
And he almost threw one like 2 plays before that.
Dude, when he slipped on that first one, I'm like, oh, he's going to throw one because it's rainy. I was like, he's going to throw one.
It wasn't his game, and just prepare for it on a national level. He's going to get absolutely barbecued all week long because McCaffrey was out and Debo was out, and everybody's saying he's nothing without those guys, and maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I mean, Cleveland's defense certainly deserves a lot of credit. They played great, but reality is he had an opportunity to shut up the critics, and he didn't do it. And as good as Cleveland is, nobody's going to take that into consideration. They're just going to go as they already have. I'm on social media now, and all the memes and all the different things. You know, Brock Purdy without Christian McCaffrey is this or that, or without Debo is this or that, and that's just how it's going to be. And you guys have talked about it. We've talked about it the whole postgame show. They're just going to have to use it as motivation. A loss, they're going to get dropped in the power rankings and all this different stuff. And it's going to be the opposite of last week when everything was so great and they beat the Cowboys and this is the best team and they're going to the Super Bowl. And now it's kind of time to humble themselves as they go into Minnesota, who's actually playing much better football than they were earlier on in the season.
And I wonder, have we been waiting for this game from Brock Purdy? Without his weapons and just see how he performs, and then now everyone can kind of say, "See, I told you so." But
look, he's
we've been waiting for 2 years to finally say, "I told you so." I think he's going to be fine. I think this was a different defense. I mean, there's been a lot of defenses that have tried to pressure him. He's been calm. He's kind of delivered the ball, on time when he needed to. I think this was just a different defense, and it was the best defense, and he went up against. And he didn't have Christian McCaffrey for the second half. He didn't have Debo. But I just think it was a different defense. And I think we forget that, Cleveland has a very good defense. And they played really well today. And they supported their offense, and they gave them the confidence. But I think a lot of people have just been waiting for a game like this so they can say, I told you so.
Factory of sadness, man. Went the other way today. Niners lose 17-19 to the Cleveland Browns. Let's go out to Frazier. Frazier's in Stockton. Frazier, what's going on, man? How are you?
How you doing today?
Hey, man.
From a fan perspective, I'm kind of glad this happened because it was getting kind of humble pie was needed because it's disrespectful to the game when you start giving out MVP trophies after 5 weeks when really the Niners haven't played a tough team who was all there. I mean, we could say Dallas, but really. I think humble pie was needed. Just from a fan standpoint, I know.
No, you're not. I don't think you're wrong. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it. I don't think you're wrong. I mean, again, I defer to these kind of things to Dennis. I've never thought that losing accomplishes anything, but maybe, Dennis, it does. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, losing, like I said, losing is losing, and you're gonna lose football. There's not many teams that go undefeated, right? But it's how you bounce back from it. I think with this 49er team and the guys they have in their locker room and the leadership, I don't think they were too cocky. I don't think they went in. This is a game you are by 10-point favorite in a football game. You're on the road. I think they might have not been as up as they should have been, but I mean, you understand that you're gonna be challenged in football in the NFL. It's just how you learn from it. It's how you learn. And again, I'm gonna go back to Cleveland. I mean, it seems we're taking things away from Cleveland. It's a good defense, the best defense. and they play, to their level today. But you learn.
And we did keep saying
when
that
you
about
lose
them.
football games, go ahead.
But they hadn't played anybody. We kept saying they hadn't played anybody either.
I don't know what that means when we say they haven't played
They hadn't
anybody.
played a top offense. Is what we kept saying.
Right. These are NFL football
They
players.
shut them down. That's what happened. Yeah.
So, every week there's a challenge. But it's just how individual challenges. How do you play, 49ers have won games, but there's guys who've had bad games. You've been beat. You've been blocked. How do you grow from that? How do you look at the tape and how do you improve on that? Now, this week, the whole team has to look at it as a whole and see how they improve. And your kicker, he has to look at the tape too and say, how can I make that field goal? Because you might need it in a playoff game. It might be windy in a football game. These are things that you have to learn how to do in NFL because you're not going to go undefeated. That's the bottom line. You're not going to go undefeated.
Patrick is in Oakland. Patrick wants to talk about the 49ers not getting more yards at the end of the game. Patrick, you're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. First-time caller here. I just don't think it's being talked about enough. Kind of overlooked how we're having our best drive since the first drive. We're gelling pretty well, and there's 30-plus seconds on the clock with the timeout, and we just kind of say we're good with a 40-plus yard field goal in the rain with a rookie kicker. We could have got some serious yardage there, maybe even scored a touchdown without even worrying about the timeout. You can throw to the sidelines, do this and that. So I got that, and I got one other piece with it because I know everybody talks about keeping the timeout, the bad snap. I'd like somebody in the stats to look up, like, when the last time somebody kept a timeout, there was a bad snap, they jumped on it, used the timeout, and kicked the game-winning field goal. I just don't think it happens. And, yeah.
You'd rather it's like insurance, Patrick. Good points, but I think you'd just rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. The other part of that is if you run a play there and you hand it off to Jordan, everyone's like, well, don't throw it, just run it with Jordan Mason. What if they tackle you for like a 4-yard loss? Now you're looking at like a 46-yard field goal or a 45-yard field goal with a rookie kicker in the rain in the same scenario. So I think what they're doing there is saying, let's just cut our losses. If they want to stop the clock with their last timeout, fine. But we're not going to burn our last timeout. We're going to let it work down until they get to like 8 seconds or something. Before they called the timeout, and then they kick, or before they snapped.
I think what he's saying though is
I hear what he's saying. I get it.
If you look at it, they've got 45 seconds, 1st and 10 at the Cleveland 26. They end up kicking the thing from the 23, which gives you a 41 yarder. I think what he's possibly saying is it's 2nd and 7. Purdy spikes the ball. So you have an opportunity to get yards there. But you're right. They could lose yards. There's no question. You're not going to put it in the air.
If you lose 3 yards, we're all still saying. Then
right.
If you lose 3 yards there, we're like, what the hell's he doing?
First of all, he's got to make a 41-yarder. 41-yarder by NFL standards should
I don't
be
think
a
this can
kick
be on
that you
Kyle's
make.
play calling there. No.
But the other thing, and we've talked about missed opportunities, Cleveland, for some damn reason, on their last field goal, P.J. Walker's rolling right, and either Burks or Gibson can intercept that ball. I don't know why they're throwing the ball there.
But into the end zone, you mean?
Yeah. A, they should have intercepted the ball. B, Cleveland with an incompletion stops the clock. So I don't know what the play calling was. I don't know if he heard the wrong call or something. You've got to be running the ball there. But, again, as missed opportunities go, we continue to put it on the kicker, and I get it. He should make a 41-yarder. But on their final drive, they threw the ball into the teeth of the defense and they were lucky enough to get it back. It's just another missed opportunity by the 49ers.
Sometimes you better be lucky than good, right? It's just the way it shook out today. And you're right. There were other opportunities. I don't think this is one of those games where you can look and say, that's the play. You know what I mean? There were too many things and too many factors. And if you have Debo and McCaffrey, do you win? Maybe. I don't know. You don't have Debo for the entirety of the game. Purdy really had a tough time gripping the ball. And I don't know that he'll admit that or if we'll hear more about that. It looked pretty clear to me on the fumble that was ruled. By the way, that was like kind of a little makeup call. That's like a quick 3 in the key for the lack thereof, and it's never quite an even makeup. But looked to me like even on the you mentioned the throw right before the interception, John, it wasn't like a bad read. He just didn't even have a grip on it.
Right.
Like when he went to the reason I thought it was a fumble was because he was like pulling the ball back and it just flew out of his hand. That's a pretty good sign of lack of grip, not anything else other than he was having a tough time with the ball. Second half, he was a little bit better, it seemed like, grip-wise, but the accuracy was way off.
Way off.
It wasn't quite as bad there. But we'd have to run through those plays there to see. I would like to know how much they were gaining on the ground. To say, like, you could have just picked up more yards there on that final drive, I think is kind of hilarious considering the -12 they picked up didn't pick up in the third quarter. 3 drives, 9 plays. So it's not like they were getting yards by the bunch here. It wasn't as easy as it sounds to pick up yardage. We'll get you the call of the game, the drive of the game, all that good stuff, and we'll wrap it up when we come on back. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund. Niners lose 19-17. They're 5-1 on the Sports Leader.
49ers lose in Cleveland to the Browns. Haven't lost since last October 23rd. 17-1 in the last 18. That is the good news. Drive of the game brought to you by Modesto Toyota. It's worth the drive for selection and savings. And, of course, that's where I get my Toyotas, my son's Toyota, his son's Toyota. You get the idea. Check them out today and reserve yours at ModestoToyota.com. Your drive of the game, streaks do continue. Christian McCaffrey, 15 in a row.
49ers have run the ball every play to open the game. Purdy now under center on 2nd and 10. First pass, play action, shovel forward to McCaffrey. Good block by Brendo. McCaffrey 5, touchdown! CMC! 15 consecutive games with a touchdown for McCaffrey.
What an absolute beast with his vision and burst.
There you go, Greg and Tim on the call. Christian McCaffrey on the first drive of the game. The 49ers have scored 38 points in their opening drives, 7 touchdowns and a field goal. So 38 points for 5 touchdowns, 1 field goal. I'll get the math right. 38 points total, 5 touchdowns, 1 field goal, including today against Cleveland to get off to that start. But they lose it 19-17. We'll put a bow on it and look ahead to the Vikings next week on Monday Night Football, only here on the Sports Leader.
Where are they going here? They got attack. Hambrick Thomas, Elijah Moore lines up that way. And
Tight
Joku,
split.
left slot. They got a 2x2. Amari got a stack in behind right. Blitz, sack! Pressure by Nick Bosa. He got there so fast it looked like a blitz. That was just Nick Bosa coming through the A-gap with a huge sack of P.J. Walker.
We'll make that our call of the game. Sponsored by Call 811. Whether your project is big or small, always call 811 before you dig. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you, wrapping things up here. Kind of like Cleveland wrapping things up with the 49ers out at the Factory of Sadness, the mistake by the lake. That'll be the miss by the lake. Greg, you can use that one tomorrow if you're still listening here. We will all be back tomorrow, except for Dennis. You'll be back. When do you join the guys? Tuesdays?
It's on Tuesdays, right, John?
Yeah, Tuesdays. Yeah, absolutely. Yep,
yeah.
that's the
So
day.
Dennis Brown will be on with Pop and Lund on Tuesdays, but we'll be back all week long with tons of 49er coverage. Murph and Mac tomorrow morning, of course, reacting to this one and probably getting your reaction as well. Then John and Greg will be on 10 to 2, and then myself and Tom will be on from 2 to 6, and we'll have Matt Mayoko tomorrow to break down everything he saw out there, and we'll talk about more of these injuries, hopefully get some more clarity from Kyle. Any final thoughts here, Dennis? Wrap things up?
It's a missed opportunity. We said it. I mean, this is a game you really should have won this football game. It was a sloppy game. The weather could have been a factor, but the bottom line is you just did not execute on the football field, offense or defense, and you lost the line of scrimmage. And I think that was it. I think when you look back at this game, you have to look at the line of scrimmage and just see how Cleveland dominated on both sides of the ball.
I would agree. I mean, that's where it was won and lost, and there was a lot of opportunities that they missed, and I know people are going to focus on the field goal, and I know nationally they're going to focus on Brock Purdy, but you guys have said this the entire show. It's now how they bounce back because Minnesota's playing a lot better. You get off to this great start, everybody's all excited and everything, but the reality is that they're not just playing to win the division. They're trying to win the Super Bowl. They're trying to get home field advantage, and hopefully this doesn't cost them down the line.
It's all about bounce back. Raiders Patriots, by the way, right now we're going to sign off here. Raiders Patriots is going on over on KNBR 1050. We're going to throw it to CBS Radio, but then coming up at 5:00, we will have the Sunday Night Football game tonight. Who is that? Is it Giants and Bills? Is that our Sunday night game? Bills and the Giants will be going tonight. So for the first time, we sign off after a 49er loss this year. Niners lose to the Browns 19-17, 5-1, and we are keeping an eye, by the way, on what's going on with the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 12 minutes and 12 seconds left in the fourth quarter at the New York Jets. They're up 14-12. So keep an eye on what's going on. If the Eagles go and lose to an AFC team on the road, we're not looking at a whole lot of difference in what's going on atop the NFC playoff standings. For Dennis Brown, John Lund, I'm Adam Copeland. Thanks to everybody who chimed in today on the phone lines and on the YouTube page, the Twitch page, and the text line today. We're back with you, Murph and Mac, tomorrow morning at 6. You get the Waterboy, Marcus Boucher, at 5 a.m. Until then, the sports continue. Niners lose to the Browns 19-17. Only here on the Sports Leader.